welcome to the Performance Café. It's good to have you here today as I continue my amblings through the book Rehumanizing Leadership, Putting Purpose Back into Business by Michael Chavez and Sudhanshu Palsule. I'm really having a great time with this book, and I think it's certainly a must-read for everyone in the business environment. Now, 2 weeks ago, we spoke about the Industrial Revolution. It started about the 1820s, and I said we're still managing people as if it was the 1820s. And then last week, I actually showed how time has shifted and expectations have shifted from specifically the millennial point of view, because most of them are now, leaders in our organizations. They're now of an age. So today I wanted to, get a lot more concrete about those things that we can change to rehumanize the workplace. And actually, I don't want to tell you about what we should do. I want to tell you what we shouldn't be doing. So just to quickly take a step back, if we are managing people like we managed them in the 1820s, what we're looking at is almost like a closed system. Right? There wasn't globalization. We are looking at, how many widgets can you produce? Nothing more than that. We are also looking at a situation where the world then was very linear. Things happened in a very linear way. Where nowadays it's more like an ecosystem. So for example, think about how many companies now don't use a regular hierarchical structure. They actually have a matrix organization. And in my leadership development, I come across that quite often, where sometimes we're training people that are about to be leaders, sometimes we're training people who are leaders, and then we've got a third category. They would be, for example, like a salesperson that is related to a particular product. So they would also have some form of connection back into that team, even if it's not a direct line reporting structure. There is some form of influence and control there. So in their book, Chavez and Palsule say that we really need to get care into leadership. Purpose, they say, is going to be the number one leadership skill for the 21st century. Now, I like to say it slightly differently. I think that we must stop prioritizing spreadsheets over heartbeats. And I think there's a big move now to identify purpose and intention for employees instead of just giving this top-down approach. Now, according to Palsule and Chavez, there are three big drivers, three traps we fall into, and those are the ones I'd like to discuss with you today. The firstly is the control trap. The control trap still runs back to this idea of this linear world and these hierarchical organizations. And therefore, certain people in certain places of the organization have certain amounts of control. Now, the problem is that if we try and control everything, if everything is a nice, neat little box, if everything is only in one department, if everything is so safely organized, then what happens is we are denying the need for agility, innovation, and adaptability. And that's actually what we need. Back to my constant quoting of the World Economic Forum, where they said that those are some of the key skills we'll be needing going forward. So we need agility, adaptability, and innovation. But what do we pay people for? What do we recognize them for? Well, status, obedience, and compliance. Now, I don't know about you, but those three sound fairly dissimilar from agility, adaptability, and innovation. So we need people that can churn up organizations to find new ways to do things, think things in a different way. And we go, yes, that's what we want from you. But actually on the back end, the subtext is actually, no, we don't. We just need you to play the game we've always played, the way we've always played it. So that's the first trap, is this control trap that we fall into. The second one is a cognitive trap. And Basically, they say that our brains are not wired for complexity. The part of our brain that does the most to secure our survival actually has a very strong reactive element to it. You are walking through the forest. There are many trees. There's a snake dangling from a tree. Your mind is going to react to the snake, but not looking for the snake. It's actually going to see the snake and then react. It's not proactively going, well, let me smack my hands or walk really hard so that the snake can hear me coming and run, well, slither away because, running, not done for a couple of centuries. So our brains are built to react to clear and present danger. We aren't really set up to react to the many nuances of complexity. And so what happens is the moment that we actually do recognize it, it is such a big deal that our brains go, no, I'm rather going to defend the line I would normally take, right? So we don't like ambiguity. We don't like not knowing. And as any manager can tell you, we're probably not too fond of change. So we would rather defend an established belief than try and learn and listen to the information and find a new way. As you can see, that's not going to work very well in our current circumstances. The third trap is the power trap. Now, the power trap comes from, remember a couple of episodes ago, in fact, I think about 2, I was talking about strategy being, it was military, the concept of military strategy was used to build strategies for business. Well, if we go back to that same sort of mentality, then the hierarchies in businesses were actually a representation of hierarchies within tribes and villages and all of mankind, where there was this pecking order. Well, that used to work. But nowadays, who has the power, right? So many people still quote, knowledge is power. Actually, knowledge is not power. The internet has democratized knowledge entirely. Anyone has access to everything. Yes, you won't get the degree unless you go to university, but that doesn't mean that that information is not accessible to you. The other thing was the control of resources. Well, yes, this one still comes into play a bit. But if you think about it, when we were taught to do things a particular way, we needed resources. Now that we can learn, we actually can find alternative ways to do it, which might be cheaper, which means there are cases where resources might not be that important because we can be resourceful because of what we can learn. So if you take out the information and you take out the resources, well, then what power do we hold over people? You see, business is now a set of interacting parts. And positional power, as I said previously as well, even just being the boss or the lead, actually means absolutely nothing. Plus, the theory I've always held on to is it's fine to be the boss, but if you have no team, nothing's going to happen. So you have nothing to feel great about. So Chavez and Palsuli tell us that these factors will hold us hostage in this reactive loop of thinking. Because unless I have the power of the resources, I can't respond. Unless my brain sees it, I can't react. And unless I can control people and things, I can't make it work. Again, you can see how directly opposing that is to agility, adaptability, and innovations. So if you think about it, when we have these 3 things, and when we use these 3 things against the people, we actually put them into the fight, flight, freeze mode, right? We don't get the best out of them. So I think the important thing here is let's not use the control, the cognitive, and the power trap anymore. Let us set people free and let's redirect and from reactive go to proactive and unlock creativity and innovation. And an interesting thing is how well that will serve the business while still rehumanizing the business. I hope, as always, you've enjoyed my take on this book and this chapter. I really have enjoyed putting it together for you. If you did enjoy it, on YouTube, I think over there somewhere on the page, there is a like, and even more importantly, there's a subscribe button. Please click on both of them. It'll make me giggle, and it's a good thing to make me giggle. And then if you would like to, please tap on the little bell so that you can be notified when each of our 2 videos a week come out. If we've got you on LinkedIn or Facebook, welcome. It's always great to see you here as well. Please go ahead and like, share, and comment on this episode and let us know if you've got any questions. And maybe if you disagree about this whole thing, about the cognitive trap. I'm sure a couple of people are going to ask questions about that. But then, until next time, I look forward to seeing you at the Performance Café.